So, guys, welcome to the Financial Summit Spaces. Another week, another all-time high. Not just in Bitcoin, guys. We are seeing all-time highs across the board. It feels as if like markets have no stopping. Everything just wants to fly. So, firstly, let me all give you a small brief about what Financial Summit is, and then we are gonna jump in and ask Tone some difficult questions because I have really difficult questions today. Tone, be prepared. And I'm not sure whether you have done your research on that or not. So have a laptop in front of you if you haven't. So, guys, welcome. So, the Financial Summit, if you haven't visited our website, please do visit thefinancialsummit.com. Financial Summit is a 5 day event that takes place every once a year. And the next event is going to be in Maldives on in March 2025. Tickets are on sale already. If you want to be with us in Maldives, do go to the website and reserve your spot. Once you have reserved your spot, what will you get there? That you will get a chance to meet a lot of people from different sectors, from money managers to hedge fund managers to VCs to fitness experts to breathing experts and a lot more different people. It's the best place to be to learn and to grow. So that was my pitching. So Tone, how are you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. It was man, every time the Bitcoin pumps and touches the makes a new all-time high, it tends to pull back. It like just it exhausts. And it will be very interesting what happens next week because from the limited data that I'm looking at, the Bitcoin ETFs are still sucking up a lot of Bitcoin. And I have no clue where it's coming from. I think one of these days the sucker is just gonna pop big time.
So my 2 cents on this, Tone. I remember in the last space I said that I'm looking at 70,000 and I want a 50% correction from there, right?
Yeah.
Let me say I've thrown that one out of question. Now, there is a very simple reason behind it, Tone. My expectation was we will hit that all time high and we will straight away correct and we'll maintain that correction. Okay. The way Bitcoin's wick was bought up, I was quite surprised, to be honest. And then I didn't expect it to again go up and it's created a new high. Now, this is a sign of pure strength.
Yeah, I mean the last time we did a space was actually on Sunday, right? So it
Yes.
was before. So at the time, Bitcoin was approximately 63,000, and I expected us to go all the way into the 80s before a significant pullback. And I remember you saying that you're looking for that 25-30% correction. Well, you got a 15% correction that happened in a matter of hours. So it wasn't that wrong of a viewpoint, but you are correct. The way that 15% correction was bought up, and we are now sitting above, we're now sitting at the highest closing daily high if the candle was to close right now. I mean, everyone needs to expect higher prices. It doesn't mean higher prices are going to come, but the charts are so bullish across all time frames that I just don't see any reason to expect a significant pullback.
100%. Like if you're looking at like high time frame charts right now, guys, lower time frame charts like 1 hour to 4 hourly, everything is showing so much strength. OBV is breaking out. Like I can't expect a dump. And trust me, when I don't expect things, it happens. Joe, I'm trying to invite you up on the stage. If you are free, please do join us. I really want you here. There's a lot of questions happening. So, Tone,
Yeah.
fine. The price is doing
Also,
its thing.
wait. One more thing before I forget. Remember, I think it was on the last space, or maybe it was the space before that, where I was joking about how booming the Indian economy is and how disastrous the UK economy is. And I made a joke that maybe India is gonna, what do you call, colonize the UK for payback. And you had a big laugh over it. And what I should have said, doesn't India already have a prime minister in the UK that's Indian? So I totally forgot to say that as a rebuttal to you laughing about that funny comment.
No, that's true. We already have put Indians everywhere. I'm just waiting for US to be colonized by us now. So hopefully soon. So no, 100%. That's true. That's true. So Tone, BTC price action. Okay, one thing. Like, okay, fine. You are seeing a lot of bullish price action. You think that the market should go up from here, right? Are you still staying on your previous comments that 80K is where you see the local top to be formed?
Yeah, absolutely. My next line of interest is, of course, the inflation adjusted all-time high at 78 and a half. And at the moment, I don't see any technical reason why that high would not be broken before the halving. Right now, I am as bullish as I've ever been on a breakout, even though we have rallied so much. The only reason I can give as to why the market will pull back is that the market has gone up a little too far, a little too fast. But that should never be a reason for a person to exit the market because prices could always go higher. Markets stay irrational way longer than people can stay liquid. So, from a technical analysis perspective or anything fundamental, I just don't see anything that scares me in taking profits in the market. Now, I did take profit in the market right at the top before the big 15% crash. I only took 20% off the market, and I had put that already back in like 36 hours later or something. I took that profit at 10 a.m. on Tuesday, and I put that money back into the same asset, back into Bitcoin by like 2 p.m. on the following day on Wednesday. Because of the way the market was bought up after the big crash. And just from a few days of data in the Bitcoin ETFs, I know the GBTC data comes in super late, but in the first 2 days, GBTC did sell 15,000 Bitcoin, but in the first 3 days, so iShares did have an extra day. They purchased 26,000 Bitcoin. So, and that's just iShares. There's also Fidelity, there's ARK, there's Bitwise, and I know iShares is buying the bulk of the Bitcoin. But once again, we're looking at a week where more Bitcoin got bought up by the Bitcoin ETFs than mined. And that's what I'm expecting by end of week. I'm thinking maybe double to triple the amount of Bitcoin, maybe not 5 times like it was last week, but I'm expecting a doubling or a tripling of Bitcoin inflows across all the ETFs, factoring in what Grayscale is selling. Also, by the end of this week, I'm expecting Grayscale to have only twice as much Bitcoin as iShares, which is actually incredible because 1 month ago, 1 month ago today, iShares had, I see about 70, let's say, let's round the numbers. It was about 70,000 Bitcoin, and Grayscale had 470,000 Bitcoin. That's a huge disparity. And by the end of this week, it's going to be 400 versus 200. That's massive. I mean, at this pace, probably by the summertime, iShares could have more Bitcoin than Grayscale, which is crazy.
Joe, you wanted to comment?
Yes, thanks for having me up. I've got a very short window before a call with a client in about 13 minutes, but I wanted to
Go for
comment.
it.
One of the things that has been wildly bullish today. Okay, wildly bullish. Looking at this Bitcoin price action, you're sitting here right now with Bitcoin, just below 69,000. It bounced a little bit today, right after it made the new all-time high. But again, as you were pointing out, instantly it gets bought up, and this has been the trend, guys, for like almost a year now. With every sell-off, it gets bought up and then consolidates and heads higher. You really, have had a very long, prolonged period where you haven't had significant corrections. At least corrections that last for any appreciable amount of time. But look at the price action today on the TradFi markets, right? You look at Nasdaq. Nasdaq's down 1.2%. Nvidia's down 5%. You've got the VIX, which is popping 5.6% up. Big move up in the VIX, right? And Bitcoin is up on the day. That to me is incredibly bullish and constructive. That has been able to weather the storm, because if you go back and run historical regressions, one of the things Bitcoin has the highest correlation with, or negative correlation with, is the VIX. When the VIX is soaring, Bitcoin tends to do not very well. And the fact that we're hovering right at the near all-time high is seemingly unaffected by what's going on in the equity market in a decent day of sell-off. That is really bullish to me. I mean, that just shows you there's people gobbling up these coins irrespective of what's going on in TradFi. And man, I think we're poised for a big breakout. I think it's coming very soon.
Oh, 100%. Like, I do not doubt right, your analysis right now, because my initial reaction, as I said, right, was we go high, we break the high, and we cannot sustain it. But that buyback that happened from the 59,200 area, I think that was the low that was created, 59,300 something. I was surprised. I was like, what's going on? Because I was doing, at that point of time, I was basically in a practice session for a sport, right? I did the session, Bitcoin was falling. And I saw once I was finished, I saw the chart and I was like, this was a buying opportunity. If you are online, you should have bought that point. So let's move on. Let's move on to the other part of our conversation. Now, since Joe, you are here, so I'm going to touch on S&P and NASDAQ as well. Yes, NASDAQ is down for the day, down a lot. NVIDIA having a major impact on it, but still another all-time high. Another all-time high being created. Markets are still showing strength. So,
yeah, and one more thing for Joe to comment on before he goes. Unemployment numbers came out this week. The unemployment rate was actually above expectation, but the amount of people employed was also huge. So a little bit of a disparity there. So also comment on the economic statistics from this week and besides the markets. Thanks, Joe.
Yeah, so let's start with that one. So the private sector hiring actually came in above expectations in February, right? And they revised down the January numbers from the initially reported ridiculous 317,000 to 177. So, like, to me, the unemployment data is all over the place. Okay, and as Tone knows, I'm not the biggest conspiracy theorist here, but you have to look at this data and the constant revisions down, and you have to really question the integrity of what the BLS is Bureau of Labor Statistics is putting out.
Hey Joe, you're on my side of things. I remember I said this like 6 months ago. The government's gonna do this for the election.
oh, you did say that.
He absolutely did. And the question is, is it one of those things where you attribute it to malice or do you attribute it to incompetence? I tend to favor the incompetence. I just think the data collection methods they're using are awful. I just think they have no idea what they're doing when they're gathering data. And there's a ton of, the gig economy, part-time economy data that's skewing everything. So you got to remember, a lot of this survey data, depending on how they're doing it, they're not actually using real data points, right? They're calling up like sample size, trying to get people on the phone, calling up employers about, are you hiring? Unless the one data point I really respect are the private data points like ADP, right? Because those are actually people paying taxes and using payroll data. It's bizarre to me that in the year 2024 that we don't have real-time statistics on a lot of these things. We have to use surveys to create models about unemployment. But putting all that aside, yeah, Stone, you're exactly right. The unemployment rate's a little bit above expectations, which the market had this knee-jerk reaction where it opened up and it interpreted that as very bullish, because the idea is if unemployment's rising, the Fed's going to be cutting because there's this whole fixation on the Fed cutting rates. But then I think you got a little bit of reversal here with the concern that is, maybe not as rosy as people think. Ultimately, I don't think it changes anything in a long-term bullish trend here. I think this is consolidation. This looks very bullish to me still, unless you're breaking below. I mean, we're not even at the 20-day moving average, I think, on the NASDAQ. Correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, this is, to me, just more of a bullish posture that is working through some of the leverage, and it's going to head higher. So I expect the equity market to still do well in the coming months. I think you could get a little bit of range-bound activity here, which to me is great for Bitcoin. I really want Bitcoin to break out in a big way, because money is going to flow to what's moving, and it's going to act like gasoline on the fire. So overall, I don't think anything's really changed on the macroeconomic picture, other than the fact that you got that comment from Powell that he thinks that rates are far above neutral when he testified, and that he expects there to be at least some potential adjustments, I think is the word he used, by the end of the year. So I do think, going back to what Tony and I have been saying in these rooms for a while, I think they're going to do one cut, or at least one cut, by the end of the year, just to save face in the election.
Yeah, and the higher unemployment rate helps him to reason as to why that one cut is warranted.
Absolutely. So now we have discussed about S&P a little bit, touched on it. We have just touched on a lot of topics that we are supposed to be discussing in depth today. So I'm going to go back to BTC again, Tone. So 29,000 BTC call options, BTC options are about to expire. The put to call ratio is around 0.86. Maximum pain point right now is sitting at around $60,000. And obviously the notional value for this expiry is around $2 billion. Options market do play a very important role. And we have been discussing this, that the option market for ETFs, when that opens, it's going to bring a lot more liquidity into the market. What do you make out of this option expiry, Tone? How do you see it?
You know, because it's the option expiry for just the first week, I don't make much of it. The quarterly option expiry, that's going to be something, right? I believe it's the next one or the one after that. 1, 2, 3. The next option expiry would probably be meaningful because it's the it's the third month of the year and it's the third week of the month. So that one is going to be more important. Stock market has been slowly creeping up. I don't think max pain on the stock market is all that different. I am paying attention to max pain on Tesla, and Tesla was opening at 182 today because I have some positions on Tesla, and max pain was 190, and it's open for today's close, and it was opening at 182. And pre-market open, I expected Tesla to tick up and close closer to 190 in order to reach max pain. And max pain means it's the most number of options expiring out of the money. So market makers make the most money if Tesla closes at 190, and market makers are the insiders. And Tesla is down from the opening at 182, and it's currently sitting at 176, near weekly lows. So, market makers and insiders are not able to move some of these big stocks like they would like. So that's my only comment on the situation.
Joe, I'm quite sure you hold a similar analysis on it.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Lovely. So, Joe, next question to you. Not a question, basically. This is something we all want, right? This is something that we all are looking towards one day. Bitcoin is right now the 13th largest currency in the world, right? It started off as being most likely the weakest at one point of time, and right now it is slowly creeping into the top 10 list. Tone, how long do you see before Bitcoin is sitting at the top?
I'm gonna let Joe jump in because I know he has like 2 minutes. I'm gonna say this is not a metric I care about all that much because Bitcoin is not like those other currencies. I think crossing the US dollar is going to be very challenging. Getting up to the second position probably is not going to take all that long. And then crossing gold will also be interesting, but Bitcoin would have to be like $500,000 to cross gold because gold's also going to be higher by that time. But these are not the metrics I care about. I care about the adoption metrics and how many people actually trust in the Bitcoin network. That's a metric I care about. And mining hash rate.
Yeah, so I'm going to start by rejecting sort of the question because I don't believe it is anywhere near the 13th largest currency in the world because of the great work done by Checkmate and others at Glassnode about realized cap versus market cap. So the way I look at it, I think market capitalization for Bitcoin is basically an empty metric for a variety of different reasons. For first and foremost, that we know that millions of coins are lost, right? They're not part of the actual market. They will never never re-enter the marketplace for a variety of different reasons. And this is based on a lot of good work. So the real key metric you can Google and look at is the realized capitalization. Realized capitalization is based on Bitcoin in economic supply that has moved and has real value. So tokens that are lost or removed from the marketplace, permanently out of circulation, which by some accounts is as much as 15% of supply, it's not considering those. Market cap does. Market cap includes those, which I think are really, it leads to confusing data, and it makes you think that the actual market cap of Bitcoin is larger than it actually is. So the calculation that Checkmate and others did at Glassnode is they think the actual realized cap, the one we're talking about, that you should look at it in reference to, is about 450 billion. Right? It's not even really $1 trillion market cap like people keep bandying about. And that's important, right? Because it shows you where we're at in the pace of, in relation to other companies. I believe, if you go with the realized cap, which you can Google and look into, Bitcoin is roughly on par with like Visa. Okay, it's nowhere near an Apple. It's nowhere near a Microsoft. It's nowhere near the other, $1 trillion companies out there. Which to me is really bullish, right? If Bitcoin were truly at $1 trillion market cap, I'd still be bullish on Bitcoin, of course, for a variety of reasons, but I wouldn't be as bullish as I am thinking that we can get to well over six figures and closer to, $1 million one day, way down the line, of course. But my point is that like the realized cap is the better metric. So I think it is a better proxy and better way of looking at it relative to other assets. But sorry, I couldn't talk more. I got to jump for this 12:30 call on my time. Thanks again.
Thanks, Joe.
Thanks a lot, Joe. Thank you so much. So, Tony, you touched on mining stocks, right? ClearSpark is basically breaking out of a massive inverse head and shoulder pattern, and with an upside of around 900%. Tell me, why would you be bullish on these companies like ClearSpark, like Iris Energy, and all these companies that are there for mining? Firstly, tell me, why do you think we need to be bullish on them? Like, why can't we just go into the Bitcoin itself? And then what do you expect from them?
Well, I'm not that bullish on them anymore. So I have been bullish on two particular publicly traded companies, which are Bitfarms and CleanSpark. Since I've been bullish on both of them for the last year and a half since I've been talking about them, CleanSpark has actually done a lot better lately. Like CleanSpark's done a lot better this year. And now if you look at it over the last year and a half, yeah, I guess they've done about the same. CleanSpark, at the end of last year, CleanSpark was sitting at about $4. It is now at $20. It's went up 5 times. Bitfarms was around 50 cents, or it was around $1, and Bitfarms is up to $2.50, $3 area. So CleanSpark has certainly outperformed Bitfarms over the last year and a half. I've only been bullish on those two mining companies. I just think those two mining companies are better positioned with their, debts and their structure of their company than the rest. There's lots of dangers that come with these publicly traded mining companies. And we had debates on this at the last Unconfiscatable conference. Bob Barnett has done a lot of research on this. He's a private miner with Barefoot Mining. He has no intention of going public. And he made the argument that public miners are actually bad for the Bitcoin space. And this was the debate that we had on stage at Unconfiscatable. I mean, the video was out, like the total 8-hour stream is out. I need to release the individual videos. So I'm not bullish on all of the miners. And a lot of them, they take on a bunch of debt because they have access to debt, being publicly traded companies. And they have a lot of accounting tricks. They have a lot of tricks on their books. And a lot of them are going to end like Core Scientific by going bankrupt because they took on too much debt. And while they do that, they have a way of acquiring a lot of mining equipment, causing problems for their lesser competition. And then they run into money trouble because they don't manage their books well. Also, for a publicly traded miner, there's certainly extra costs, lots of extra expenses, and lots of regulation that they have to follow, which actually prevents many of them from mining with a pool like Ocean, which benefits the Bitcoin network. And publicly traded miners can't mine with Ocean because the regulation will get them in trouble, because Ocean is a decentralized mining pool that does not, comply with like OFAC and some of the other censor standards. Now, investing in a Bitcoin miner is a quasi-investment in almost like a shitcoin, where you have an opportunity for a high risk, high reward leveraged play in the crypto space. while at the same time not selling your soul in investing in some kind of scam. So these mining operations, while they can potentially run a bad business like Core Scientific, they are still part of the Bitcoin ecosystem. They are still creating, it's still Bitcoin, and it still benefits the Bitcoin network no matter how you slice it. So if you are looking for a potential, you know, altcoin quasi play, trying to time a miner that happens to be $1, like in the case of Bitfarms, and watching it triple as Bitcoin only goes up, say 20, 30%, is a tradable play. And also, investing in some of these publicly traded miners will help their businesses, and those that care about mining and those that specifically care about mining in the United States or in the West versus, what people consider shady mining in China. Now, keep in mind, I was a big fan of mining in China. I'm not scared of 80% of all hash rate being in China. I believe that actually helps decentralize the network, not centralize it, because all the Bitcoins themselves and all the development and all the all the other companies, the other aspects of the Bitcoin ecosystem, all the nodes, all of that stuff is in the West. So having a lot of mining in the East, I have no problem with that. But supporting the publicly traded miners is another way to support Bitcoin for some people. So eventually everything kind of evens out in the free market. So I don't have a problem with people investing in the Bitcoin mining space, but you have to you have to understand your reasons for why you do it. I do have a trade on, I have options in a options spread trade on Bitfarms. I've already taken half the profit in that trade. Bitfarms has fallen since I've taken profit. So the second half of my trade is currently not in profit. But I still have a lot of time on those options. Earnings has already come and gone. I was hedged through earnings, and I was bullish on this particular earnings for Bitfarms because of how much it fell. I normally don't hold through earnings unless I really know what I'm doing. And in Bitfarms, I didn't have a problem. So I guess maybe that wasn't a great answer that people are looking for, but that's the best explanation I have for the publicly traded miners. Oh, you're muted.
Yeah, sorry about that. I was trying to unmute and then close the thing. So that was not, to be honest, Tone, a confusing answer. To be honest, it made sense on how you discussed it. So okay, can I ask you one question, Tone, which is in regards of entering the mining stocks? So we know halving is coming, right? Post halving, we know their revenues are gonna go down. But we also know the stronger companies will outperform the weaker ones because they will acquire them, they will do certain things, and they will be realizing their profits as what we have seen in the previous cycles. Now, is it better to wait for halving to happen and then see what's there to play, or is it better to preempt it and try to enter now? You're on mute Tone.
Oh, sorry. I had a follow. Are you talking about Bitcoin specifically, or are you talking about miners?
Miners, like in regards of miners.
In regards of miners, I think it's a little too late to invest in miners right now because the halving is so close. I personally felt that when I was putting the investments in, it was still earlier in the year with way more time before the halving and miners still acquiring a lot of Bitcoin with the price of Bitcoin rising with a lot more Bitcoin on their balance sheet, relatively speaking, for the price. So I was bullish on miners earlier in the year and last year. I am not very bullish on miners right now because the halving is coming and everyone knows that they're going to lose 50% of their revenue. Now, many of these publicly traded miners will be going bankrupt sometime within 12 months after the halving, and those that survive will get to benefit and they will get to buy some of those facilities and some of that mining equipment on, at 50 cents on the dollar, maybe even less. So some miners will benefit, others will not. and it's hard to say which ones are better than others. And again, I haven't done deep dive research, but if I would not touch any publicly traded miner other than CleanSpark and Bitfarms. And that doesn't mean that CleanSpark and Bitfarms are going to survive the next 4 years. These companies could falter. Remember, I famously said that Binance was a shadier and more dangerous exchange than FTX. And FTX clearly proved me wrong. Now, I still would never touch Binance either. I was not going to touch both of them. But if I had to choose which one was going to, implode first, FTX or Binance, I was going with Binance. And clearly that wasn't the case. So just keep that in mind.
Well, that was some alpha, even if it is to save your own money, not to make money. Money not lost is better than anything else. So, Tone, thank you for the answer. So, Tone, moving on to ETFs, you have already touched on it, and I appreciate that. But could you, for the people who joined later, could you go back again to the ETF flows? What are you looking at? And specifically, the way Bitcoin ETF inflows are absolutely blowing the gold ETFs out of the water.
I'm sorry, say it again.
So Bitcoin ETFs are basically the inflows are way more compared to what gold did when gold ETFs were launched. So could we talk a little bit about that as well?
Sure. Now, I personally don't think it's that crazy, right? So there's a couple of factors here. I think that if someone did a proper analysis on money flowing into the Bitcoin ETFs versus money flowing into the gold ETFs at the time, and adjust for the I guess GDP of the country and the net worth of the people and the amount of access that people have to the ETFs and the amount of wealth that people have, I think is going to be very, very similar. Also, you have to factor in the outflow from GBTC. So the first thing you need to do is you can't look at BlackRock plus Fidelity plus ARK plus Bitwise. I mean, those are the big four. You can't look at how much Bitcoin they've purchased in isolation. You have to subtract from those purchases the amount of Bitcoin that was sold by GBTC. Once you remove that, right, like the BTF inflows so far, and I do have tracks, and I'm going to wait for this week's numbers, but the inflow into the new Bitcoin ETFs is over 300,000 Bitcoin right now. But the outflow from GBTC is about 200,000 Bitcoin. So the difference on the two is about 100. I mean, it depends how it's being calculated, right? Well, like people are looking at the BlackRock ETF and how successful it is, but 70-80% of that is GBTC selling and migrating into the ETF. So I hate these statistics. So first off, it's only 100,000 Bitcoin. Now we multiply that 100,000 Bitcoin, that's net inflow by the price of Bitcoin, you get this nominal value of how much wealth has entered the Bitcoin ETFs. But we got to adjust that for inflation. I mean, the gold ETF came like 20 years ago. You got to adjust that for inflation. So now you're going to cut that number probably by 60%. You got to cut out access. Like back when the gold ETF came out, I don't remember the date. Let me look up the date. Gold ETF. Okay, sorry. When did
2004, I think.
GLD launch? Okay. It launched into, yeah, you're right. It launched in 2004. How many average Joes had access to invest in GLD at their fingertips in 2004? Almost nobody. It was like E-Trade and Klaus Schwab, I think. Oh, no, sorry, Charles Schwab, and maybe a few other companies. Ameritrade, maybe. Like the average Joe wasn't trading. They couldn't just purchase a gold ETF. Today, a 12-year-old can open an account with Robinhood and trade the Bitcoin ETF. And I hope people from Robinhood are listening and try to sue me for this, because I know 12-year-olds that are trading on your children predatory app. I can't stand Robinhood. I think it's one of the worst companies we have in finance. And like that wasn't happening back in 2004. So I think it's a bad comparison. I think if you compare them properly, people are going to see that it's about the same. The Bitcoin ETF inflow, relatively speaking, is no different than the gold one.
Okay, makes sense. Welcome unconfiscatable to the space. So, Ton, moving on to the stock market, that was about it from me, like in terms of ETFs. Okay, no, I have one question, Ton. So, this is a new, obviously, you have given me a new direction in regards of thinking about ETFs. But one more thing that I wanted to ask you from the perspective of ETFs is that the maximum amount of volume that we are seeing is closer to all-time highs. Now, what do you expect the flows to be in the coming days? Yeah? You expect the flows to keep increasing because if it decreases, if let's say Bitcoin goes into a secondary downtrend right now, most of those entries are going to be in loss.
So I expect the increases. I expect it to stay elevated, because what I did not expect was the continued massive outflow out of GBTC. I really thought that the outflow of GBTC was over, because the week ending on the week ending on February 9th, GBTC lost 9,500 Bitcoin. And then the week after that, GBTC lost 12,000 Bitcoin. Last week, sorry, 2 weeks ago, GBTC lost 8,500 Bitcoin. So it was trending down. It was going to be consistently below 10,000. And yet this past week, the week ending on the 1st of March, GBTC lost 24,000 Bitcoin. So that's like almost as much as the prior 3 weeks combined. And it looks like this week is not going too well either. So until that like balances out, I'm still expecting a lot of inflows. And I'm expecting inflows all through the halving. But after the halving, there could be trouble, because with massive inflows will eventually come massive outflows. And this big 15% crash, I'm curious if that 15% crash actually caused a big disturbance or not. Because if a lot of people sell an ETF during the day, the next day, that ETF will be selling a bunch of Bitcoin to balance out the books. So once the market turns and it starts to drop, I can see it dropping a little bit extra than it otherwise would. But for now, I think the hype is still strong. And now we have the halving hype on top of the ETF hype. So I don't see that slowing down anytime soon. Maybe right before the halving, if the price does reach my mid to upper $80,000 range.
Thank you so much, Tone. Moving on to the stock market, Tone. We've already discussed, we are sitting at highs, we discussed the unemployment number, but let's dive a little deeper into how individual stocks are doing. Nvidia created new highs. Obviously, it's down today, acceptable, but it still went for the highs, and then the news kind of changed the way market was flowing. But Apple, we have discussed this week on week, and it's disappointing that Apple has seen seventh consecutive trading day in the red. Like something has happened, something is happening in the firm that public is not yet aware of, because Apple is not looking strong.
Well, it's looking strong today. That's for damn sure.
I didn't see
On
that today.
today,
I didn't see today's chart. Let's see.
yeah, take a look.
Oh my God. Okay.
Now, if you notice, Apple was on a daily extension C yesterday, buying opportunity. Today it's on an MRI warning candle, and on Monday it's going to be on an MRI buy. So whatever Apple did, it is rallying like crazy today. It looks like Apple's in trouble. It's made a double bottom. Apple has not broken the high since last summer. I think Apple is in a little bit of trouble here. I think it can certainly rally back to the 180s. But as I've stated before, Apple's got trouble. Apple moved out of China because of the relationship between U.S. and China. It's trying to find, a new cheap place to make their product. And I think Apple has stopped innovating. Everyone, raves about the Apple Watch, which is great, but what have they done since? I don't know of anything. They are finally changing their phones to USB-C, which is good, finally. And I don't know what Apple's doing next. I mean, they need some innovative mind talent to come up with some good ideas.
No, 100% Tone. Like it's such a big achievement for them to have USB-C. Sometimes I look at the phone which my wife uses, and I'm like, why are you even, holding this phone? So it's I have to live with it every day. So imagine my life. And she was like, I want to buy the new iPhone. I'm like, yeah, just buy the old one. It's gonna be the same. Don't worry about it. Uh, moving on, moving on. I'm not going to go on a, rush over here and tell why I hate Apple so much. Dixie, Tone, DXY. It's created the new lower high on a higher time frames in a very good consolidation. I'm not going to lie. In a consolidation from Jan 2003, it's been just in that area. It's getting, coiling up very well. Where do you see it going? Do you see it breaking out to the upside, or you expect it to now start falling? Because you basically gave a target of 106 to 107 to 108, and it was achieved. So what do you
Well,
expect now?
yeah, it was achieved back in October of last year. And you're right, we made a higher low back in December. And we're on a very nasty weekly looking candle right now, taking us back down. I will remain bullish on DXY as long as it stays above 101. As long as DXY is above 101, I will remain bullish on DXY because I just think that other European nations are a giant basket case. Though a lot depends on the US election. We saw a horrendous State of the Union speech by the American president. And I don't know, if the confidence is lost in the United States political system, it could get ugly for the dollar, but the European politicians are even worse. So I don't really know what to think right now, but I will remain bullish on the dollar only because the dollar and Dixie is measured against bigger basket cases.
Yep, very, very well. 1 second, Tone. I'm just getting my other stuff, other things in the basket ready. So, guys, this I'm not gonna ask this question to Tone because Tone has already said it does not have much significance. But New York Community Bank has been down 42% and 82%, like 82% overall. Like day on day, it's falling, it's crashed, it's over. So I'm gonna tell my research team stop putting New York Community Bank in here because that ship has sailed. Moving on, Tone, unemployment numbers, you discussed about it. So briefly, what do you make of the numbers? Because as we're looking at them, right, we are seeing unemployment numbers higher, but we are also seeing employment numbers going higher. Like it's counterintuitive, but I don't understand it. Explain it to me. Explain it to me. What does that mean?
Well, as Joe said earlier, they basically make up the employment numbers, but the unemployment rate is a lot more accurate. So the weekly employment numbers are generally irrelevant. The last time it was revised from like 300 something thousand new jobs down to 177,000. So it's almost a 50% correction on the weekly employment non-farm payroll numbers. And yeah, the unemployment rate, 3.7, 3.9, it doesn't really matter. It's all about the same. And the unemployment rate is versus prior year. And not versus prior year, sorry, that's overall. versus prior year is a slightly different metric. Uh, and the unemployment rate is, I mean, it's fine. It's in line. Like there's nothing really. I don't think the market is behaving today based on employment numbers. I just think that the market was running a little hot and it's just pulling back a bit.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like that. I mean, for me, today's candle on, especially on Nasdaq, being honest with you, I know Nasdaq is down, but I was quite okay to look at the candle because for me, it has broken a local high, created a new high, and now retesting that local high. So I am quite happy with this price action until and unless it is trading above 18,000. Not an issue for me. But anything below 18,000 is when I'll start to think that, okay, maybe a secondary downtrend is about to start, or maybe we are just going for a short, run down to get some more liquidity to go up again. So yeah, so that's my 2 cents on it. So Tone Powell has been speaking to Congress. I think it was the second day today, if I'm not wrong. So let's look at some of the key points that he made. So the summary from his testimony is that do not expect rate cuts until more confidence in inflation uh, is moving substantially to 2%. He has said that inflation has improved, but still above 2%, as he always says. There are risks to cutting interest rates too early, too late, as he always says. Labor market demand exceeds supply, as he always says. Everything that you said last week when it asked you about this question, oh, there are so many things happening this month. What do you expect? And you and Joe, like, it's just, you know, they just go there for festivities. They don't talk about anything. It's just the same answers again and again and again. So, Don, any change of stance from your side after what Powell has spoken? I mean, I expect the answer to be no, but still.
No, not at all. I mean, Powell is still very angry at the fiscal policy by Congress and the Treasury. Congress put in the most dovish, money printing hungry troll they could find in the world, and her name is Janet Yellen. So Congress has the greatest, what do you call it, enabler of their unreasonable fiscal spending in the Treasury. And I think Jerome Powell hates it as much as anything in this world. And Jerome Powell is one of the few people trying to do what he can to save the country for as long as he can, because otherwise these politicians and the troll of Treasury will run an absolute muck to the tune of $3 to $5 trillion annual deficits.
Yeah. So yeah, that's that. So, Don, the last topic of today is a topic that the research team did not come up with. It was me sitting in the cube this morning, thinking about MicroStrategy, and then the idea came to my mind that okay, people buy MicroStrategy stocks, people buy Bitcoin. Kind of MicroStrategy is called the leveraged, Bitcoin investment, right? Don, have you seen the chart of MicroStrategy versus Bitcoin?
Yeah, MicroStrategy is pretty much a leverage play on Bitcoin because Michael Saylor continues to buy more and more Bitcoin, and he leverages those buys. The Bitcoin itself isn't leveraged, but the money he acquires, he's leveraging cash and just acquiring more Bitcoin. So the stock of MicroStrategy will not go up linearly. It will go up exponentially. The more Bitcoin Michael Saylor has on the company's balance sheet. So for the time being, it's great. But remember, the same is true on the way down. When Bitcoin eventually turns the corner and starts to fall, MicroStrategy will also fall in a leveraged way. Not to mention, there is a chance they will start selling some of that Bitcoin. And in that case, once again, MicroStrategy stock will fall a lot if they're selling Bitcoin and the Bitcoin price happens to be dropping.
So, Don, what if I told you MicroStrategy has underperformed against Bitcoin?
I would be surprised because the last time I looked at them over the last few years, especially since the lows in the market, MicroStrategy has outperformed Bitcoin.
So the lows in the market for Bitcoin, let's say, okay, let's look at it. Because I was looking at the chart on a weekly scale. So I was on a very higher time frame. Somewhere in November 2022 is the low that was created for Bitcoin, right?
Yeah.
Where is it? Yeah, there. And we are up around 350%, 370% overall. Now let's see what MicroStrategy has done from November 2022. Okay, November 2022. So MicroStrategy to Bitcoin chart. I'm not looking at MicroStrategy as a whole. I'm looking at MicroStrategy against Bitcoin. So that is November 2022. MicroStrategy, if priced against Bitcoin, has done 82%. That's it. Uh, obviously, yeah, don't forgive me. I was reading the chart wrong. MicroStrategy has outperformed Bitcoin by 100%.
Yeah, that sounds more like it.
Yes, my bad. I was reading the chart and I'm like, oh, it doesn't make sense. And then I'm like, oh, damn it, we are basically pricing MicroStrategy in Bitcoin. So yes, you have made money. But yeah, in overall, when you see the whole picture, like starting from 2018 onwards, it doesn't look like there is a massive breakout or there's a massive trend in MicroStrategy against Bitcoin. But yeah, we are basically entering an upward trend right now. So maybe it will outperform. But overall, if you see from the time MicroStrategy came into existence to now, MicroStrategy is down very badly against Bitcoin. So down around 99% in price from the inception time.
Well, right. Well, you also have to keep in mind that MicroStrategy was grossly underperforming the S&P 500 forever until they got into Bitcoin.
So when was the first time these guys started buying Tone? Like, do you have any idea?
I'm assuming in early 2020.
So early 2020. Let's see if they have done anything good from that time. Okay, let's say early 2020. The reason I'm asking is because I've heard a lot of people talk about MicroStrategy and Bitcoin like hand in hand, that this is a better investment. So early 2020, if I say January 2020, we are break even. We are literally break even. So if you would have invested in Bitcoin, you would have made the same money that you would have invested in MicroStrategy from the time of inception. So yeah, there's no change, like literally break even right now, same price. So maybe now it's when we'll start seeing, some sort of upward market in that too. But yeah, I do agree. It's a leverage play. And guys, think of other options to invest your money. You have ETFs, you have MicroStrategy, you have other firms which are miners. There are a lot of ways that one can be invested in the Bitcoin space without holding Bitcoin if you really feel that you don't want to hold it. So yeah, there's a lot of things. So that was the last topic for today, Tone, which I found on the tube. Go on. Anything you want to add to it?
No, that's it. I mean, I can't believe MicroStrategy is now a $1,300 stock. I remember just like last week, my friends were like asking if it was going to break 1,000, and I was like, holy shit, I can't believe it's up this high already. And yeah, no, it's going well. I mean, if Bitcoin goes to 80,000, MicroStrategy could be a $2,000-$3,000 stock. They may have to do a stock split soon. We will see.
Yeah, 100%. So yeah, that's it, Tone. Any closing arguments for today from you? It was a shorter space than normal because it's midweek. We will have a long, not midweek, it's Friday, but we didn't have a space in the start of the week, but we'll have one longer space during Sunday. Tone, are you interested in doing a bit more political space this Sunday? We can have a chat with Joe as well that you guys have been discussing.
Maybe. Yeah, see if you can get a hold of Joe, see how much time he has, and it'd be nice to just discuss the political side of it.
Yeah, because we basically had this space very late. It's Friday already, and we're not going to get much information on Saturday and Sunday as per the market. The market's going to close. Then that space, you guys have been looking forward to it. So I think it will be good for our audience to hear a little bit about politics of the United States and the world.
Yeah, sounds good.
Let me message him straight away. Guys, thanks a lot for joining. We will be doing a space on Sunday, no matter what topic it is. We will have things for you. We will always try to make sure that there are educational content as well as things that we do our own research on to be shared with you guys. Thank you, Tone, for your time, and talk to you soon.
Thank you. Bye, guys.